Before we get started, one more thing. If you want to get any PE gear, be sure to check out TotalManShop.com. That is TotalManShop.com. And use the promo code MHS2020. Promo code is MHS2020 and get 12% off. Be sure to check out their wide variety of all kinds of good quality PE equipment. All right? And that's promo code MHS2020 for 12% off. And the website, once again, is TotalManShop.com. Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions Podcast. Today, well, first and foremost, how are you guys feeling today? I know I'm feeling fantastic. I hope you guys are doing good. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for all the guys that have been reaching out via Instagram and say, hey, man, I just I want to talk about this or I just want to learn more about whatever the case may be. And one of the things that I've noticed that keeps coming up is edging, right? And more importantly, it's more about how can I edge to really last longer, like a strategic approach, if you will, right? Because a lot of guys find that, hey, you know what? I know edging works and this, that, and the other. But one of the things that I may not have touched on in full detail is exactly how I go about it. And obviously the benefits of it. Number one benefit, guys, and we all know this above all else, hence the reason why most of us do it, is that we want to edge so we can last longer in bed, right? But there's other things that we do got to keep in mind in regards to lasting longer in bed. It's not just about, just holding off and just, maybe squeezing up, having a Kegel, not releasing the semen. That's not really the way you want to go about it. One of the things that obviously, I've been researching more and more, because believe you me, man, I can talk on the subject all day, but there's always going to be more to learn. It's kind of like science. Anybody that tells you that science is proven beyond, it's at a point where it's conclusive 100%. I'll tell you that they're 100% lying to you because it is never conclusive. There's always more to learn. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned when it comes to sex and obviously enhancement and basically everything in this life. So guys, when it comes to edging, I did a little bit of researching and kind of looked more into different strategies that I think anybody can apply. And I guess it's more of a breakdown from a workout perspective on how to do it, right? So one of the first things that I'll say is that you need to check up on how you're breathing. And this is one that I think is more important, obviously, when you're having sex, right? Like when you're having sex, you want to make sure that you're breathing the right way. And when you're breathing at a really like shallow, high tempo breath, I can guarantee you're not going to last very long. In fact, I can almost guarantee that you're probably going to bust nut rather quick, right? And that's just kind of because you're in that heightened, almost right before you ejaculate, you do feel like you're almost like, you're going to release that. You're going to release that nut, right? And you do breathe a certain way when you're about to ejaculate. And that's one of the ways that you go about doing it, right? You breathe really short, shallow, rapid breaths, and you want to slow down. It's almost like if you're smooth and you're making sweet, sweet love, you're making all kinds of good sex. You want to make sure that you slow down, enjoy the rhythm, That's what a lot of guys are missing when it comes to that, because a lot of dudes that I've talked to have been watching porn for so long. And check the previous episode with Matt Sinkovitz to learn more about, how to get past that addiction if you are suffering from it, right? And one of the things that obviously he talked about was bringing porn to purpose, right? But let's say, you are kind of watching that. I would highly recommend talk to Matt, talk to somebody that can help you, get over that. And, you want to slow down the way you go about, edging, right? And this is more edging for stamina, not edging necessarily from a PE perspective, right? Granted, the same principles do kind of apply. But you do want to focus on your breath. So if you are breathing, I would recommend just kind of try to do I'd say about anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds in, 3 to 5 seconds out, and just kind of repeat that. and make that mind body connection. Also, like I already previously mentioned, you want to take porn out of the equation. Why? Overstimulation. A lot of guys, obviously, they're looking, they're searching, they're just, oh, bubble butt. Yeah. Oh, big booty. Yeah. That's typical things that I would search for, right? I am no different than anybody else. And obviously, I'm in the same boat as you guys. All that stuff is extremely stimulating, and obviously I got to run away from it because I, like any other human being, like the way it looks. What guy is going to say, nah, I don't like bubble booty. I like it flat, zero curvature whatsoever. I highly doubt that. Well, you know what? To each their own. To each their own. All I know is that a voluptuous booty sure looks good. Anywho, right. So overstimulation, watching porn, all that stuff, right? It might, for a lot of dudes, it obviously messes with that. It gets rid of you really connecting with your body. Whereas if you are connected to your body, you will focus solely on your breath, focus on the moment, use your mind to stimulate yourself, right? For a lot of guys, they have trouble even getting an erection, without the aid of porn, right? But like I said, that's the number one thing that you kind of got to get rid of. And obviously the thing that I was talking about before, which is breath work, right? And really focus on that tempo. And the other thing that I would recommend too, in regards to this strategy, is you want to develop a time limit or have a time limit in mind, right? So a lot of guys that suffer, they bust nut in less than about, you know, 3 to 5 minutes, set your standard to 5 minutes, right? Set it to 5 minutes. Make it your goal to last until 5 minutes. And you want to make sure that you have a good rhythmic pace, right? So let's say you're breathing, right? Concentrate on your breathing. Tempo. A lot of guys are just kind of like, one of the methods that obviously I know about is kind of the stop and go method, right? Where you kind of like jerk, 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 or feel like you're going to ejaculate, you stop, right? Stop. And then you go again, jerk, jerk, jerk. And you're super fast, just kind of always looking to get to that climax point, and then boom, just kind of dropping down. Then always, and just up and down, up and down. What I'm recommending here for the guys that obviously want to last a lot longer than they currently might is you want to focus on a good tempo. So combine your breath work, right? You want to make sure you have that good breath work, breathing in correctly, no porn. You want to get that out of the picture, out of the equation. And you want to focus on a good solid tempo, right? So like when you're having sex versus jerking off, the motion of you just jerking off, it's a hand motion. So you can just, make that go all kinds of quick. But in the real world, and when you're making sweet, sweet love, you want to cherish the moment. You want to, you know, you want to go at a slower tempo. Obviously, there's times, I'm not going to say that there aren't times where you want to just take her to Pound Town, you're watching that booty, the booty waves, and you're hitting it. That's mad delicious. And I'm not going to say that, in those moments, you are probably going to pick up the pace a little bit. However, the one notable difference that I do want everybody to kind of make as far as an observation goes is that obviously, when you're jerking off with your hand, it's going to be a whole lot quicker than you using your entire body and obviously, thrust your hips into hers, or into that booty. It's going to be a little bit different. And obviously, one of the biggest things is the tempo, right? You won't be going at that same super fast pace. It's going to be a little bit slower than that. So what you want to do when you're edging is emulate that, right? You want to go for a tempo that's a little bit slower, as far as, what that tempo might be for you, I don't know. Maybe it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to slow down the pace. You want to savor the moment. You want to pretend that you are having intercourse in that moment, right? And the best way to go about it is you want to connect to your own body. You don't want to be, jerking out to porn, doing it in a way that you're kind of just seeing and you're just like, stop and go, climax, climax. No, you want to slow down, breathe. You want to breathe, make sure you're breathing, make sure you got your mind right, right? And you want to be focusing on a good solid tempo, right? So any guy, let's say you have trouble, you do want to set a time, right? And that time could be anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever the case may be for you, right? And the other thing that I was researching about is like a lot of guys, when they will be jerking, they're used to that kind of climaxing stop and go method is that they will kind of tighten up the sphincter or the taint, right, kind of in between. And the reason for that is that right before you ejaculate, everything gets tight, right? So if everything's getting tight, you got to focus on being relaxed, being loose, being smooth, right? And that's the one thing that I do want you guys to focus on when you are Edging, right? You want to be relaxed. You want to be smooth. You want to be breathing appropriately. You want to make sure that you're not tighten up, your sphincter or the taint right in the middle, right? That area in itself, you want to make sure that's relaxed. You are the dude in control. Your masculine energy is all about, hey, I'm in control of the situation. I'm in control of myself, right? I'm not going to let, this nut control me because you have sexual mastery, right? And that's one of the things that I think is very, very important when it comes to edging, right? And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, is with the initial contraction that you'll have, right? Where it kind of like that initial kind of, when you've reached that climax point and you kind of have that dry orgasm where it kind of constricts and, you have that contraction, right? It feels delicious, but nothing comes out, there is no pre-cum, there is nothing. My goal here, or one thing that I've recommended some of the dudes that I've been talking to, is you want to slow it down to the point where it's like you don't even reach that contraction till about 10 to 15 minutes in, right? So what do I mean by this? The stop and go method means that you get to that climax, you feel like you're about to bust, and then you stop completely. And some of you guys know that that dry orgasm kind of feels like that, right? You'll kind of feel like, you'll feel that contraction. It feels pretty good. And obviously there is no ejaculate, no semen comes out, but you still feel fantastic. You still feel like that contraction felt good. But in this case, what I recommend is that you go anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, right? Set that timer up and work on slowing down the pace, man. You want to slow down that pace. You want to be in full control of that pace, right? Your tempo is good, your breathing is good, you're solid. You feel like you go probably half an hour. But the point of this is just to basically retrain your body. If you've been one of those guys that, hey, you know what, you're jerk, 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 you're busting nut, you're done in about 3 to 5 minutes, right? It's almost like you want to prolong this. You want to teach your body how to really be in control of this. And your mind is what is in control of you. So in order to do this, you must retrain your body, because your body almost has that it's almost like a reflex, right? It's just like, I'm used to doing this. Subconscious takes over and wham, bam, and thank you, ma'am. You're done for the day. And that's not what we're looking for, right? You want to make sure you can last longer. So I would recommend, you extend this period for as long as you possibly can, when you are building up your reps, or I guess your sets in this situation. And maybe you are doing, I don't know, 2 sets of 15 or whatever the case may be. And the reason why I recommend obviously going slower, no use, not, getting the porn out of it, making sure that you're breathing correctly, making sure you're relaxed, is that when the moment comes for you to make sweet, sweet love to your lady, you want to obviously emulate the things that you have now retrained your body for. And you want to last longer than 15 to 20, 30 minutes, or whatever the case may be. Depends on how long it takes for your woman to come. But luckily, I will be having a Tantra Master coming soon onto the podcast to talk all about that good old stuff, right? And obviously, if you do want to refer back to the episode that I had with Matt Angels talking about orgasms, that was an eye opener as well, right? And it's always important to focus on her. She comes first. Hey, you're the man. You come first. Hey, man, hey, man. Not the greatest showing. However, you can always revert to using your tongue or using fingers, right? Whatever the case may be. But it's always good to obviously be in full control. And you are the masculine energy in the situation, man. You are the dude in the sack, right? So you want to make sure that you are in full control of that. Hence the reason why we are training to last longer. Because I know a lot of guys, keep asking me, how do you go about it? And those are the basic key elements that I use. I want to make sure I slow it down. I make sure I don't feel that contraction for as long as possible. And now it's just kind of like, it gets kind of boring, honestly. But now when I'll go, I guess, when I implemented this way of, no contraction whatsoever, I could go for as long as I felt like, and that's another pro tip that I'll give you guys right now, is that when I did feel like I was going to reach that climax and I was mindful in the way that I was edging, I could slow it down. I could bring myself down without having to reach that peak, right? Because I could just slow myself down, slow down the tempo, just relax, take a couple breaths in and out, deeper breaths maybe. As I slow it down, I just kind of relax and I get back in the groove. And then I could practice and, work on the tempo, right? And, I could go a long, long time doing it this way. which obviously translated well when it was time to make sweet, sweet love. And, it wasn't my hand, it was the punani, and it felt fantastic. And it felt even better knowing that I was in full control of how I was handling this situation, right? So whether the booty's all up in your face and you're just loving it, and you're just, ooh, you're riding it. At the same time, you can really get in there and enjoy the moment more, knowing that, hey, you know what? I got these basic skills down to ensure that I'm in control of the situation and I don't get overly stimulated looking at all this booty jiggling in my face or jiggling in front of me. And, just as I press up on it, you want to make sure you are in full control of that situation, right? Whether you're slapping it, opening it up, all that deliciousness, you want to enjoy your sex. You don't want to have bland sex or like the one thing that I hate is that when people are just like, well, think of something at work that you don't like, or think of something you hate, or think of, man, you want to be in full control of this situation. You want to make love and make sure that you're going balls deep and it feels delicious and that she feels good too. Because if you feel it, man, she can feel that vibe, man. She can feel that frequency when you're on it, man. And it makes a complete difference. And it's important for you to develop these skills. So, again, you just want to slow down the tempo, right? You want to make sure that you're breathing correctly. You want to make that mind body connection. I know a lot of you guys work out, and one of the things that Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about, which is resonated with me because it is extremely true. But in bodybuilding, it's always talked about the mind muscle connection. If you're working out biceps, you really want to feel like you're getting that pump in your biceps. Now, when you're edging, you want to make sure that you're maintaining, a solid erection while simultaneously being in full control of this erection. Like, hey, it's not about you're not about to bust, right? You can hold that for as long as you want. And that nut, man, you own that nut, right? And it's one of those things that obviously will take time to develop for a lot of the guys that suffer from maybe the PE, and that's premature ejaculation, right? And it just has to do with rewiring your brain. The neuroplasticity in your brain, the neural pathways have been developed in a certain way after you watch porn for X amount of years, and for a lot of guys, it just comes down to just retraining yourself. So, hey, there's no shame in your game. And obviously, when it comes to edging, I know there'll be messes. Believe you me, I have made them. It does take time, but just focus on your breath work, focus on the tempo, and you want to try to keep that climax moment, away for as long as possible. Obviously, the peaks and valleys, if you want to go the stop and go method, hey, it's a great place to start. But obviously, over time, you want to make sure that you raise the bar in some way. So another thing that for guys that obviously like, hey man, I want to go to Pound Town. I just want to hit it at a fast tempo. I just want to get in there. For those certain guys, what I would recommend, and I mean, this is a pretty funny conversation, right? But I told them, I'm like, hey, start off at a slow tempo, set a time, right? So let's say it's 10 minutes, right? So obviously start off slow, whatever that tempo may be. Maybe it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the jerk tempo, I guess. And then what you want to do afterwards is like, okay, after a week, I was able to clear that level. Next week, it's more like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the week after that, if you want to raise it up again, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the week after that, you just kind of keep escalating, right? The only thing is that this one kind of made me laugh where I'm like, hey, bro, you might get a cramp, if you go like, all out for 10 minutes, man. Right. But the one thing that I kind of was discussing with him is that obviously you can take breaks, maybe go for a really fast tempo, and then you kind of slow it down. In the same way, you're basically emulating what it would be like to have sex with your girl, right? So, you can obviously play around with the tempo. You want to go faster, you want to go slower, all that stuff, but you want to be in full control. All right. So that being said, that's kind of the strategy I use. It's very, very simple, right? So tempo, breath work, mindfulness. You want to make sure you're in full control. Get rid of the porn too. I know it's stimulating, man. I know it, dude. I know. I've been down that road far too often, man. And it's one of those things that obviously it takes time to let go of, but hey, you know what? It is worth it. And believe you me, man, I'll go on Instagram and be like, oh man, everybody's got come on, man. There's more booty there sometimes than I think is even healthy. However, it's my job to just look away from it, as difficult as it might be sometimes. But hey, you know what? You do gotta look away from it, and it's better for your brain in the long run. The other pro tip that I want to leave you guys with And this is one that I was kind of learning about just recently. And I stumbled upon it. I'm like, hey, I got to bring this one to the platform. I got to bring this one to the podcast. But and I'm surprised I didn't know this one before, but it's a really good one where when you are about to ejaculate, your testicles will get close to your body, right? And at this time, you will most likely bust nuts. So one thing you can do if you're edging or if you're having sex and you're doing a doggy style, perfect thing that you can do in this moment is just kind of pull your testicles out. So like, as you feel and get close, you can kind of just pull them down a little bit, and you will find that it will make a difference. However, for some guys that are a little bit sensitive there, it may stimulate you some more. So maybe you do want to avoid it. But I found for myself, I did an edging session and I just tried pulling it away to see if it made a difference in how I could kind of gauge it. And it did help to kind of keep that nut away when I was already like, 25 minutes in, and I was kind of doing the whole stop and go at that point, man. But, it was one of those sessions where I did feel like, oh man, I was more stimulated than normal, right? Where it's kind of like, I was at that point. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try this method out. And I did. And I found that, what, it really did help. So if anybody is struggling and is looking for a way to something else that they can add into their tool belt, it's a great way to go about it. And you just add that in and it'll help to kind of keep that nut away even longer, right? And over time, when you get more in control of your body, better in control of yourself, you may not even have to do it. But it is one of those things that I thought was very interesting. The other thing I saw, I'll bring it up, but I thought it was just stupid. But one dude was talking about how you can just use pain to kind of keep the orgasm away. And I'm like, well, this is just dumb. And he's like, yeah, you can punch yourself in the head. I'm like, guys, you know what? Maybe that works. Don't do that. Don't be punching yourself in the head. I went on to read some funny stories of guys that actually use this. So I don't consider that one a pro tip. I think that one's just stupid. And the other thing, like I mentioned before, is, think of things you don't like. I'm like, well, what's the point, dog? Because you want to make sure you are in this moment. I mean, name me a moment that a human's having as much fun as they are as when they're having sex. I don't know about you, but I am having a blast, right? And it is, like I said, there's nothing better than punani. It's hard to beat, man. I truly think, some of the greatest things in life is free, forget the Lamborghini. I'd rather just go where I ride my wife. Oh man, that is the truth of it. But yeah, you want to make sure you are enjoying the moment. And one of the things, like I mentioned before, is that you always want to make sure that when you're edging, you're making that mind-body connection. When your mind is right, you will find that your love making will be so much better. You got to be confident in yourself, confident in your abilities. And hey, like anything else, there is a way to train it, right? And this is one of the ways that you can go about it. And if you go about it right, it should help you to last a whole lot longer. So guys, I hope that answers the question in regards to, what kind of edging strategy I use and different things that I've used to, obviously help me last longer. And like I said, you do want to use your mind, but you want to make sure your mind is fully engaged in the moment and you feel how you feel. You want to make sure you know what your body's up to when you're making love. You don't want to be, I'm thinking about, I don't know, Barbara Streisand's nose or something. You don't want to be thinking about those things. You want to be thinking about, enjoying the moment, caressing her body, like, ooh, the clitoris looks good, how the vagina feels, all that good stuff, man. That's what you want to be thinking about. You want to make sure that you're fully like just drowning in the moment and enjoying every bit of her body. You want to make sure you are in full control, man, because hey, you're making love, dude. So that's my observation. That's the way I go about it. And again, if you guys got any more questions, hit me up on Instagram, DM me, or send me an email. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. If you guys got any more questions, again, hit me up. All right, stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in. You know, man.